Hey, it's that time again. It's always that time, isn't it? Um, Before I begin though, I hadn't heard about it until about midway through today at work. Um, I'm not really sure what to say because my reactions to things like tragedies and whatnot is a little bit atypical, mainly because I have an almost existentialist outlook on life. I'm not religious by any stretch of the imagination. I usually say that I'm agnostic because I don't really fit into any definition of religion. I don't really believe in Christian ideal. I believe more in there is a creator, but it's beyond the scope of anything that we can possibly comprehend. That life does cycle. There is an afterlife, but it's not the way that we have been taught that it's like. It's a little confusing. In any case, my heart goes out to the families, but I also believe that we all eventually do return to where we've come from, some a little sooner than others, and that everything will be okay. Without further ado, let's hit the Homestuck. I believe I've finished looking at everything that I can possibly look at, so I'm going to finish this part and move on to the next part. Boy, quit all this scurrying around, you little mouse. No, his name is not John. His name is Zeus Malpooplord. For the last time, this boy's name is John. Fine, John, return to your quarters. It's still a mess. You go back up to your bedroom, tiptoeing around this weird petroleum-based sludge. Now, John, respond to your friend unit. Typey, 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 typey. John, are you there? Tentacle Therapist, TT, is now an idle chum. Hey, yeah, I'm here, and not dead, I think. I know, I've been watching you scramble through the house like a lunatic. You should have answered me sooner. Oh man, sorry, I was looking for my dad and I can't find him anywhere. Have you seen him? No, I'm sure he'll turn up. We have more important things to address right now. Yeah, like, where am I? I don't know that either, but I've determined your neighborhood was destroyed by the meteor. Wherever you were transported, it saved you from the impact. I've been reading reports in the news. Over the last few days, there have been many smaller meteor collisions with people's homes around the world, and they seem to be getting bigger. Yours was the biggest they've identified so far. Wow, okay, so then I guess if this is all the game's doing, then the point is for us to save the world? Perhaps. Then we better get moving and figure this game out. Yes, but wait. We should retrieve your PDA. Yet again. It will help to keep tabs on each other while you investigate. I think I can get you closer to it if I can replenish our grist supply somewhat. There may be a way to recycle some that we already used. Okay, I'll meet you out on the balcony. Wait, Rose, one thing. What? You never wished me a happy birthday. Hello? I was working on something to send you, but I was running late with it. I didn't want you to think I believed meager well wishes alone would suffice for the occasion. That said, happy birthday, John. Oh geez, that is silly. Anyway, thanks. John, your emotional ability is extensive enough. He's not even remotely bothered by the fact that his entire neighborhood and the neighborhoods of several other people have been destroyed. I mean, there's a difference between cool, collected, shonen calm, and then there's just being emotionally vapid. I'm reminded of the first time I ever played Kingdom Hearts. And Sora didn't really seem particularly bothered that he got transported to another world, and oh my god. This is something that I often have a problem with in fiction, is that people don't tend to express the believed response that one would assume a person would have in such a situation. I mean, there are real-life movies that deal with things like, waking up somewhere where you weren't, and there's enough panic even when you're only, a couple blocks away from your house. But, I mean, maybe it's supposed to be representative of, like, going into a sort of survival shock mode, but I just find it strange. First, take the fabric item on the floor there. The towel? Why? Oh well, you're the boss. You capture the towel. What now? I explained to you why we take the towel. Don't panic. Always carry a towel, damn it. Do as the purple text says. To the balcony. John makes his way to the balcony per your awkwardly worded request. Wait, take that. The blue wobbly thing. Well, what part of that is wobbly? You whimsically decide to capture the totem which was used to create the apple tree earlier. John, recycle the grist as was dictated by your cohort. John cannot do anything with the grist as of this moment. That is up to the Esper player. I see. John's like, do what now? John, put your brain back in. Ooh. Yes, that will suffice. Rose deletes the perfectly generic objects. 6 units of build grist are restored to your grist cache. Neato. What do they do? Oh. John, you had better have really good balance. Rose expends the grist to drag a new plank from the balcony in the direction of the PDA. John, run across precarious platform swiftly. John isn't too sure about that. It's a long way down. John's frowny face. Oh. That face is perfect for expressing the exact emotion for this scene. Boy, I said to make haste on the narrow catwalk. John, stop being so cute. Just send the sprite to get it or something. John is very nervous about the idea, and the strident tone of your commands is starting to make him a little upset. Fine, proceed as your level of comfort dictates. By shimmying and hopping. We're like shimmying in instant teleportation style or something. Baloo. You cautiously walk within range of the PDA. Rose retrieves it. Now take it. You grab the PDA, launching one of the Harlequin figures into the night. You can kiss that one goodbye. Doom, doom. Meanwhile, on serious business. And I'm going to read from the bottom this time. Well-pressed attire. Submitting inquiry of concern over cataclysmic event. Pipe fan 413. I just understood something. Something spoilery. Reply. Gray Slack 66 at Pipefan 413. Status of health / wardrobe. Fedora Freak. Neighboring house struck by flaming projectile. In light of fire hazard, evacuating house of all expensive garments. GL Fedora Freak. Salvage as many hats as is practical. Well-pressed attire. That was Office Urchin at 1280. Well-pressed attire. Fedora Freak, you are in our thoughts, along with Pipefan 413 and his enviable collection of pipes. Fedora Freak, thank you all. Report most hats removed from danger. Ties next. The following matters have been submitted in a frank and forthright manner for Pipefan 413's judicious appraisal. I guess I'm not really sure how to interpret this. I mean, the other serious business had me a little bit confused. I mean, there's this fine line between, things that are there just to be funny and things that are there to be foreshadowing. Shrug. Just one arrow command will suffice, thanks. It looks like you're not the only one trying to locate your father after the disaster. These boring men are uninteresting. You are redundant. John, are you okay? You seem a bit tentative. I'm fine, I guess. Since I got here, I feel compelled to do these weird things I don't really want to do, by some kind of voice that I can't really even hear. I don't know, it's hard to explain. Perhaps the early symptoms of an anxiety disorder, like post-traumatic stress? Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Well, if you can pull yourself together, there are a few more things we should try. Like prototyping the kernel spread again, if possible. We should hurry. My laptop battery won't last forever. Okay, I will go back inside. No, don't do that. Hop off this ledge onto that car. John's frowny face is going down in internet history as the cutest thing I have ever seen. What? No, that sounds incredibly dangerous. With your spazzing seizure head. Now you're just being a pest. Which turnip truck did you just tumble out of, anyway? Turnip head. Who are you? Years in the future, but not many. An unsealed tunnel welcomes hot desert air into its stagnant depths. Boy, you there, boy. Aha. And so it continues. Alright, now on GameFAQs. 41309. An examination of the basics. Commence probably boring reading. Upon connecting with the client user, you, the server user, will be met with a control panel allowing you to manipulate your co-player's environment. You will find that you are allowed to deploy 4 items at no expense. 3 of these are rather large machines, and 1 is a punch card. It's quite possible that you have already deployed some of these items before reading this. If this is the case, and you have activated the machine called a Cruxtruder, such that it displays a countdown, you must proceed to section A100 of this walkthrough immediately. The life of the client user depends on it, and if your co-player has activated this device in your environment too, then yours does as well. But if not, please refrain from doing anything with the Cruxtruder aside from merely deploying it. This will buy you some time to think things through properly, and to go over the basics of the game before you find your soft, easily punctured head in the jaws of the lion. As mentioned, there are 4 items to consider, each playing a role in the process which appears to be a singular purpose. To have a singular purpose. To manufacture objects out of thin air. The designers of the game, judging by the language used, regard this process as a sort of alchemy. This may allude to complexities in the production process yet to present themselves, but for now the variety of objects you are able to create remains quite limited. The items in question are the Cruxtruder, again tread lightly with this one, the Totem Lathe, the Alchemitter, and the pre-punched card. I will describe how these devices work in conjunction with each other, and I will use the analogy of having a key made at a hardware store to help you understand. First, deploy all of these machines in convenient proximity to each other. Be sure not to block doors or pathways with them. You can always revise the dimensions of rooms to make space for them, but I'd advise against this or even experimenting with the function. Doing so comes at the expense of build grist, a commodity which appears to be at a premium on the onset, and one you'd best be advised to save for later. The Cruxtruder. Removing the lid signals the moment your life becomes a great whirling batshit pandemonium, somewhat resembling the chaos of an especially ethnic wedding. Racist? Somebody insert the "that's racist" kid, because I don't know how to interpret that. Somewhere, a soused uncle deliberately shatters china on the floor. Muddy livestock is decorated and then lost track of. The question, "Whose mule is this?" at times can be heard over the din. This is now your reality. But aside from that, it marks the beginning of the process I am about to describe. The countdown begins, yes. Also, an entity called the Kernel Sprite is released, but neither of these things are all that relevant to this process, to my knowledge. More on these things later. What is relevant is the unlidded Cruxtruder's ability to dispense cruciate dowels. It will dispense at least 1, though I suspect it is capable of producing more, given parameters I'm not yet familiar with. In my key-making analogy, these dowels represent the uncarved pieces of metal which the hardware store employee retrieves from a drawer or rack, and sets about carving into a key. The 2 following items are needed to do the carving. The pre-punched card. It is a simple Solidex card containing an item. There is evidence to suggest the specific item it contains is variable from session to session. The card I deployed contained a blue apple. Yours may be different. It shouldn't matter, hopefully. Additionally, the card, as you may guess, is punched, like one used with antique computing systems. The pattern of holes comprises data, which I believe corresponds to the instructions for creating the item the card contains. That it is pre-punched suggests there is a way to punch an unpunched card, possibly imprinting it with the data for the item it contains, though no mechanism for this has presented itself yet. But the data on the card cannot be used to create the item directly. There is a middleman. That middleman is the Totem Lathe. The Totem Lathe. This is essentially the key carving machine. It will carve into your cruciate dowel a pattern of grooves and contours, the sort which make a key unique. The instructions for this pattern are supplied by the punch card, which is inserted into the lathe pre-activation to configure its chisels. Once the dowel is carved, you have a totem serving as your key, which can then be used to unlock the card item through the alchemitter. but at this point I will diverge from my key-making analogy and switch to a barcode analogy, which is not a terribly strenuous leap to make since the concept of a key and a barcode are essentially the same, one being a unique pattern of grooves, the other, of course, varying black lines. The alchemeter. If you place a cruciate dowel, carved or uncarved, on the alchemeter's small pedestal, its robotic arm will scan the contours with a laser. Hence the barcode analogy. This is the machine's way of reading the data originally imprinted from the card and transforming that data into a physical object. Though typically this is not done without expense, I believe. An uncarved dowel results in the creation of a perfectly generic object, which is a seemingly useless green cube. It costs 2 units of build grist to make, and I do not advise you to waste resources on it. There appears to be many other varieties of grist, ostensibly used in combination to create different sorts of items, which possibly offer some insight into the game's use of the term alchemy. But quite conveniently, there is an exception to this. Creating the item on the pre-punched card costs nothing. This is good because creating this item turns out to be essential. Now that you know this, you can in your own time begin the process. Once you initiate it, naturally there is no going back, so best to be prepared. But you probably shouldn't drag your feet too long. As I mentioned earlier, this is your only means of escape. When you're ready, be prepared to follow the steps in the next section swiftly. A100. So your crux extruder is ticking. Do this to live. I'm going to stop this video right here so that anybody who wants to skip this section can just end it before I start reading.